Hi guys, welcome back. It's UK here. I just got back in for a bit of a bike ride and found that Samwise 7 RPG has posted a 23 GM question meme questionnaire thing, originally put up online by a Zach S. I'll post the link to his blog below in case you want to respond there. But I thought, I like doing these sort of things, they're fun, so I would do one and post it up. 23 questions, here we go. 1. If you had to pick a single invention in a game you were most proud of, what would it be? I'm not entirely sure what this question is referring to by single invention. I assume it's meaning an idea or something you came up with as a hook or as something. In that, it's probably not particularly original, but it was a homebrew setting I was planning on doing called Ice Haven, which was I came about the idea after watching Armageddon on DVD. The idea of what would happen to a D&D game world if it suffered an asteroidal impact. Rather than kill off everyone in a big extinction event, I decided, what if you could take that and then run with an Ice Age setting. I never actually got around to doing much more than preliminary, but it ended up being handed over to some online friends at the time who turned it into a Java chat type, where you type in your actions for your characters and interact, that sort of thing, which I think is still going actually, but that would be the answer. Question 2, when was the last time you GM'd? That would be a week and a day ago, my Pathfinder game. Question 3, when was the last time you played? That was last night, also in a Pathfinder game. 4, give us a one-sentence pitch for an adventure you haven't run but would like to. This is not original at all, but I would probably go with Colonial Marines in an Alien versus Predator one-off game. Because I think that would be cool. Question 5, what do you do while you wait for players to do things? That depends. Sometimes I doodle, sometimes I take notes of what they're saying in case they come up with better ideas than I've got. Sometimes I will continue to read through the module or the adventure notes to keep myself refreshed, that sort of thing. Or I'll look up spells and stuff that I know they've got that I'm not 100% on. Question 6, what if anything do you eat while you play? That depends on the game session. The Sunday night games, it's usually the ever so lovely Victoria, who's a girlfriend to one of the players whose house we play at, does some cooking, and we end up with something like a chili or wraps or something interesting like that. When it's the Dark Heresy game, it's usually curry, and the alternate Friday night Pathfinder game is often, for me, Chinese from across the road outside the shop. None of which is particularly healthy, I've got to admit, but there you go. Question 7, do you find GMing physically exhausting? Not physically, I often find it mentally exhausting. Because it depends on the session, but sometimes trying to keep your head around what the players are doing, coupled with the ideas that you've got written down or in the module, sometimes, depending on how the game session goes, sometimes you walk away with your head buzzing with stuff. Or if it's been a really good game, sometimes you come away buzzing in a positive manner. Question 8, what was the last interesting to you anyway thing you remember a PC you were running doing? Okay, since it says to me anyway, that would be my character in the Dark Heresy game I play in at present. He's an Imperial Guardsman. I'm playing him as such. He does what he's told, basically. He is a grunt. He's a shooty type bod, but I've also started taking vehicular skills, mainly because at one particular point he had the idea of charging the Rhino across the melter bomb trap, because if the tank goes fast enough the explosion will be left behind, which failed. Ever since then he's actually got better at things, and recently he actually got to be the pilot for the spacecraft and the atmospheric, flying around dropping the rest of the party off sort of thing, which, although it isn't particularly great, normally whenever I ask to play a pilot sort of character, I rarely ever get to do any piloting, so for me that was really good. Question 9: do your players take your setting seriously, make it unserious? Oh, take your serious setting and make it unserious, vice versa, or neither? Normally, my players take the serious setting and they run with it. I can't think of a time that they've ever made it unserious. So I would say they take the setting as is and run with it. So I would say it's neither. Question 10: what do you do with goblins? Well, goblins in my games are still the horrible, gribbly little beasties that you tend to find in first, second level. They are a monster race. I don't allow them as player races or anything like that. At the moment, I have a player in one of my games who has really got his character has a real hate on for goblins. So goblins are being used quite a lot right now. Big goblins are also quite good comic relief, I find, when they get captured and you have to role-play the interrogation. Question 11: what was the last non-role-play game thing you saw that you converted into game material, such as background setting, traps, etc.? That's a good question, actually. I'm not entirely sure. I would say it's a couple of things. It's probably research for the great big Call of Cthulhu campaign that I started running a few years back and never got to finish, which I'd still like to do. There's also I'm trying to come up with a new homebrew setting, and as someone who is a pagan by faith, I'm trying to introduce elements of that, not push it into the setting, but try and use elements of what I know to create the mythology and the creation of the world. Question 12: what's the funniest table moment you can remember right now? Oh goodness, I don't know. That would probably have to be something I mentioned in a video a while back, which was my mate Big Dave's first attempt at ever DMing a game, which was Birthright campaign setting back under 2nd edition. It was his first ever attempt. He had an introductory module. We got attacked by bandits and one of them fled, and the dwarf, played by my mate Gary, basically charged after it into the hills because he wanted to be able to kill it, and because it didn't say anything in the module about that, Big Dave's response was, "You don't come back," and that was it. Question 13: what was the last game book you looked at, aside from things you referenced in a game, and why were you looking at it? That would actually be, if you give me a moment, I've got it here on my desktop. That would actually be the Deathwatch RPG rulebook, and I was looking at that because I've got a real hankering right now to run that as a campaign, and I was basically just reading through it, kind of refreshing my mind with some ideas and so on. Question 14: who's your idea of the perfect RPG illustrator? I couldn't tell you the person's name because I don't know and I don't have the books on hand, but if you know the old red box basic D&D books, there are two really thin sort of like red bound books. The artwork in that I think is pretty much perfect for what I imagine D&D Welsh look like. Everything else seems a little bit too stylised and a little bit too fantastic, but I don't know who the artist was to give credit to them. Question 15: does your game ever make your players genuinely afraid? I wouldn't say so, no. I don't play that sort of game. Even when I'm running Call of Cthulhu, I don't try for that sort of thing. I just don't think it works very well in an RPG. The only time I've ever had anything like that was a Call of Cthulhu game where one of the players, who had never played Call of Cthulhu before, actually got up and moved his chair around the table so he didn't have his back to the door. That's probably the closest I've got. Question 16: what was the best time you ever had running an adventure you didn't write? That's a very good question. I don't know. That I would probably say would actually be, I'll say it's an adventure, but that would be the first time I ever ran the Masks of Nyarlathotep campaign for Call of Cthulhu. I had a couple of players at the time, and it worked phenomenally well. really did. Really worked well. Everybody got into character, even though it was a fairly lengthy thing. There was only the 2 players. I would probably go with that. I had a great time running that. Question 17. What would be the ideal physical setup to run a game in? It would be a large room, probably carpeted floor, square wooden table, solid wooden chairs. I say that only because the amount of times I've seen people lean back on, plastic chairs only to see the rear legs go snap under them and they disappear below the table. So nice solid chairs. GM at one end with the screen, the table to the side for the books, and then 2 players per side and 1 at the end. No TV, no loud noises, no distractions, just playing. Question 18. If you had to think of the 2 most disparate games or game products that you like, what would they be? So disparate being 2 completely opposite things. One I would say is, this was games or game products. One would be Call of Cthulhu. Is probably my most favourite RPG ever. On the other hand, the opposite side of that. Oh no, sorry, it's things that you would like. Oh, I take that back. Things that you would like to see. Okay, one of them would be, there's a game called All Flesh Must Be Eaten, which is an awesome zombie game. Quite a tongue-in-cheek sort of thing, but fun. The publisher tends to do sort of like, how to put it, they're books of options. So there's a book on like having zombies in the Wild West, there's a book on having zombies in space, there's a WWE one as well for zombie wrestling. But what I would like to see for that is something like a serious, less tongue-in-cheek source book for, say, something like New York or London after the zombie apocalypse. To give you, like the old Vampire World of Darkness city books. That'd be one. The other one would be, I don't know, that's sort of horror, so let's look at the opposite end of the spectrum. Completely separate, I would like to see, it's not role-playing, but it's hobby gaming anyway, I would like to see Games Workshop re-release the squats into Warhammer 40k with their own codex. Because I love the concept of dwarves in space, and I think getting rid of squats from that universe was a very bad move by somebody's part. Okay, where was I? That was question 18. Question 19. If you had to think of the most disparate influences overall on your game, what would they be? One of them would be H.P. Lovecraft. As I said, I'm a big fan of Call of Cthulhu, I'm a big fan of his work. I think that influences a lot of my games. The other one would be something like Sci-Fi Channel original monster movies, things like Sharktopus or Mega Shark vs Giant Octopus, because it was originally, when I first heard of Dungeons and Dragons, it was the idea of monsters that really got me into it. I loved the idea of everything else, but the idea of all these monsters was the way to do it. And I still love monster movies and everything else, and I think that also influences a lot of my games. Question 20. As a GM, what kind of player do you want at your table? Oh, okay. I want someone who is a serious gamer. There's always a little bit of fun in playing, you don't want to be too rigid, but someone who's serious, is going to take the game seriously, is there, I don't want to sound railroady or anything like that, but someone who's there to tell the story that's being told. So it doesn't matter whether you're telling a published module or you're running a published campaign, they're there to play what the GM has brought to the table. Obviously they can go in their own direction and throw out ideas, but they're not going to try and derail the game. They're going to follow the story and see where it goes because they want to tell the story as well. They're also someone who's going to make each game session. I know that sounds a bit harsh as well, because I have players who obviously work or home life or anything else that gets in the way, but then there are also players that I see and know who the littlest things that could have been done another day interfere with their turning up and playing the game. It'd be a player that keeps a night for their D&D game, say, and the rest of the week is for the rest of their life. Because when you have a player that isn't going to turn up, it's not, without a very good reason, it's not fair on the GM and the other players who then have to try and compensate. So someone who's serious, someone who's going to tell the story, someone who's going to commit to the game, and someone who isn't going to be a power gamer or a rules lawyer. That would be my one on that. Question 21. What's a real life experience you've translated into game terms? I don't know that I have, actually. I suppose the closest I come back to that is what I was saying about question 11, where trying to bring my pagan beliefs and what have you into the game as a background mythology and what have you. I suppose that would be the one, because I can't think of anything else that's happened in my life or things I've heard of in my life that I would say I've translated across. Question 22. Is there a RPG product that you wish existed but doesn't? Well, I think we've answered this, haven't we? Unless I had a question wrong earlier. As I say, in answer to question 18, I would like probably that particular source book for All Flesh Must Be Eaten, where you have a serious look at a city book like New York or something for All Flesh. Question 23. Is there anyone you know who you talk about RPGs with who doesn't play, and how do those conversations go? Most of the people I play with are role players or hobby gamers in general, or they're people that have played, so because it doesn't really come up with anyone else. When it does come up in conversation with other people, I've never had a bad response. Generally I find people go, oh yeah, that's quite cool, and then that's it. They don't really want to know, it's not their bag. Pretty much everyone else I talk to, my main circle of friends, even the acquaintances, I would say, are gamers, and those that aren't probably ask a couple of questions and then they leave it at that. That's 23 questions. I hope I understood what some of them were. If not, I'm sure someone will tell me. I'm sure Samurai 7 RPG will correct me on one or two of those. I'm going to post the link to this chap's Zach S.'s blog below. I'd be interested to see if any of you guys want to do this questionnaire, see what you come up with. Anyway, I'm off to bed in a few minutes. Until next time, take care and good gaming.